Yuka, a powerful new AI model has sent shockwaves around the world, prompting governments to ask for more information. What's that about?
Well, Jenny, earlier this month, the AI company Anthropic announced what its new generative AI model called Mythos had demonstrated and withheld from releasing it to the public because it was too dangerous. Instead, the company gave a small number of firms access to the product to run a joint project to test, analyze, and find ways to protect critical infrastructure against potential threats posed by such a product. Now, the program detected security holes in software used around the world that have gone undetected for years and years. Other programs can do this too, but Mythos did it much better. What's more, it was also able to write code to crack those vulnerabilities without human intervention. Now, it can be a powerful tool for software developers to detect bugs and patch them up. On the flip side, though, if it falls into the wrong hands, then even mediocre hackers could use it to attack critical systems such as banking and nuclear power. Now, for more on what this all means for cybersecurity, let's bring in Dr. Aleksandr Yampolskiy. He's the co-founder and CEO of SecurityScorecard, a company that helps firms monitor and protect against cyber and supply chain risks by evaluating their exposure to threats. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Now, Aleksandr, so Mythos can be a blessing, can't it, if used in a correct way, but it's the risk of misuse that has led to its developer to decide not to release it. What really is it capable of doing?
Well, we're still trying to figure all of this out, but Anthropic released a much more powerful model trained on almost 15 trillion parameters, and we know that this model is able to detect vulnerabilities that nobody ever knew about. For example, it detected a vulnerability in a 27-year-old piece of software, which was tested multiple times, and none of the human researchers were able to find that bug, but Mythos did. And so I think what really changed is the time to speed. It used to take us 5 days back in 2023 to weaponize a vulnerability. With Mythos, you're able to do it in seconds. So the time that security teams used to have to patch their systems all of a sudden evaporated. The speed of discovering vulnerability to exploitation really became exponentially much faster. And it means that people are going to have to move to automation and evolve how they operate.
So it really is a shocking development in terms of its speed. I mean, basically humans can't catch up. Technology firms cannot catch up with the speed of this. Now, the announcement has unsettled businesses, particularly the banking sector, but some have dismissed it as overly hyped. How big really is the problem?
I think it's a really big problem because, look, like an analogy is, think of it like an invention of automobiles. People used to be able to run and compete with each other, and you would be able to ride horses, but all of a sudden it's like a new generation of weapons and defense systems where it could do it at a speed unimaginable. And so that means that really banks and financial services are going to have to completely rethink how they approach security. Processes that used to be manual can no longer be manual just because you cannot keep up with the advent of the technology available to attackers. So it's going to have to force us to completely rethink and accelerate the shift from prevention to resilience. We're going to have to assume that attacker is going to be able to break into the environment sooner, and then completely redesign our environments so that they're resilient from the very beginning.
Indeed, Anthropic is saying that Mythos could reshape cybersecurity. So are we really in a kind of, are we seeing an inflection point in AI technology?
I think we're seeing an inflection point in AI technology, and I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, because a lot of the chief security officers are still trying to adapt to what it means in terms of protecting organization. And it's going to take us a couple of years to catch up and really start using automation. But we're going to have to fight robots with robots. You're no longer going to be able to fight robots attacking your environment with the human capital. You're going to have to fight robots with robots, and it's going to reshape completely how we think about security. And I do think for the next couple of years, we're going to see a massive influx of breaches and vulnerabilities out there.
I mean, fighting robots with robots. I mean, that's precisely what programs like Mythos can do. Can it? I mean, in theory, it can also help bolster security systems in critical infrastructure around the world. Don't you think?
I think it's going to be a cat and mouse game. I think it's really going to be a cat and mouse game because cybercrime is a multi-trillion-dollar enterprise with many nation states like North Korea looking for vulnerabilities to exploit them. So it's really going to go back again to AI compute. I think that it could help defenders, but the issue is not going to be finding the vulnerabilities. The issue is going to be how do you patch those vulnerabilities quickly enough? For example, you might have a bank and they need to patch all their systems instantaneously, but you have to be careful when you patch your systems. You could take a production system out and you could stop the trading, which would be even worse. So I think the real issue is not going to be finding vulnerabilities, but how do you build environments in a way where you can very quickly apply those patches and test them?
Does every company, large or small, must now protect themselves more against cyber threats than this kind of cyber threats posed by the development of AI?
100%. And I think additionally, the issue is that the biggest risks are no longer inside your company. The biggest risks are in all of the companies that you trust your data. We call it third-party risk. You could be doing a great job protecting your company, but then you send your information to an accounting firm or a law firm, and they might not have adequate protection in place. So all of a sudden, you become only as secure as the weakest link in your digital ecosystem. I think it's also going to raise the importance of a very robust third-party risk management and automation.
Now, part of the reason why the Mythos sent shockwaves around the world was through responses by governments. And despite earlier falling out with Anthropic over its refusal to allow its AI models to be used for mass surveillance or autonomous killing, the US government has also held talks with the Mythos developer. And regulators in Europe and Asia also want to know more. What are the biggest concerns for governments then?
Well, I think these days for cybersecurity, everything is interconnected. The hackers, they collaborate, they share techniques, they think outside the box. But the companies, they do the opposite. They hoard information, they compete. They try to hide the data breaches to protect their reputation. There's going to have to be a very close collaboration and information sharing between the public sector and the private sector. We're not going to be able to fight the attackers alone. We're going to have to come together as a community, collaborate, share information if we want to have a chance of solving this problem. And I do think that the governments are going to have a lot of resources from a data compute perspective, from standing up AI centers perspective. So I think this collaboration with the public sector, private sector, and the manufacturers of a frontier model is going to be very, very crucial to be able to resolve the problem.
Well, challenging times indeed, both for the private sector and the public sector. Well, Dr. Aleksandr Yampolskiy from SecurityScorecard, thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
And that's it from the business desk.
All right, doubt is to fly on the wall there, but very interesting discussion. We really have entered this new age of humanity, I think, with artificial intelligence. Thank you so much for that, Yuka. That's Yuka Raye with the Business Update.